Welcome everybody. My name is Alexander Klöpper. I'm with KPMG Germany, and I had the pleasure to sit on this very panel last year as a panelist. Now I have the honor as a moderator. With me, I have Dr. Dirk Sturz from Film Planet. Round of applause, everybody. And Jan-Erik Dippel, digital ethics consultant is now. Last but not least, Husen Kapasi from PwC. What we're trying to do is share some insights today on how consulting is dealing with Web3 digital assets. And I think in the description it says we're trying to cut through the noise and go beyond the hype. We're trying to do this. And now it's time to, I think, for the panelists to share their story, how they ended up in the digital asset space, how's been the journey so far, and maybe what was your first touch point with digital assets, blockchain, crypto? Dirk.
Thank you, Alex. Yes, so I'm Dirk from Film Planet. Film Planet is a consultancy boutique focused on blockchain-based business models. What are we doing exactly? We start with strategy, build target operating models for our clients, supporting with license applications, finding the right tech providers, other providers that you need, go-to-market strategies. Also find tech providers is something needs to be done, needs to be coded, needs to be integrated into the banks, into the core banking system, for instance. At the end of the day, what we don't do in this realm is we don't do tax advice and legal advice, and we do not code ourselves, but everything in between, also including IT architecture, our services that we provide. Where our clients, large banks, small banks, asset managers, with strong focus on the EU, but we also have global clients, global crypto exchanges who are our customers. What was my first touch point with Bitcoin actually? So I've been a huge part of my career with Börse Stuttgart, and actually I don't know when I first came across crypto and Bitcoin, because suddenly it was there and from time to time we were talking about it. But the first real business-wise touch point I had was back in 2017, when we sold a startup to Börse Stuttgart, Sovalabs GmbH. I was one of the co-founders, and this is the entity that finally built the Bison app for Börse Stuttgart. I myself, I wasn't involved in building the Bison app. I back then in 2018 founded another entity for Börse Stuttgart Digital Exchange, and then we went live in 2019, which back then was the first regulated exchange, so multilateral trading facility for cryptocurrencies in the sector. And so the pitch of Film Planet now, talking about our consultancy business, is that we say we are not typical consultants, we are coming out of the industry. So the other partners, the other co-founders are from Film Planet. They built for Bankhaus von der Heide crypto business back in the years.
Pretty nice. Pretty. Sitting here with such experience is always a good thing. Yeah, sorry. Just had to find myself now. Good. Jan-Erik Dippel, my name. I studied law and economics, and then I moved into banking. It's something like I fell into it at first over DK Bank, BNP Paribas, and State Street, and then finally moved to KPMG, where I met Alexander in our younger days. He's like good old wine. I just grew. On the other side, after KPMG, I moved into the audit area, more in asset management. And then over a short trip to EY, I came to BDO and built up this AML compliance audit consultancy team with a focus to digital assets. And this whole crypto sphere. How I came the first time to digital assets and crypto was at KPMG when I was a young, innovative and motivated associate. I'm still motivated and young, hopefully. I feel like it. But there was the 5th AML guidance just published, introducing the crypto values into the law. And I was so motivated that I thought, hey, I'll have to show myself. I'll just send out a summary to the team. And then, yeah, nobody else cared about crypto at this time. And then I was something like, hey, you're the blockchain dude, the crypto dude, you've sent a mail about it, so you're the expert now. Over the time, I developed some kind of like a crypto gang together with Alexander at KPMG. Right now, you can see Digital Ethics. It's my own company, just started 3 months ago, focusing on being or becoming something like a boutique consultancy. Client sides also right now, international banks, fintechs, with a focus on all the regulatory stuff from licensing to AML compliance, help those to cut through this compliance as a business blocker and try to enhance them to become compliance as a business enhancer or enabler.
I'm the one with the headsets.
Yes.
Thanks. So pretty cool experience. I think you experienced already 2 Big Fours, right?
3 in the end. There was a short step with Deloitte for 5 months.
So definitely you missed the best one. No, sorry. So I'm Husen Kapasi. You know, I'm an electrical engineer as for the studies and my bachelor's, and then I have MBA in strategy. And how I ended up in this space is, you know, I was working on a digital strategy project for one of the electronic appliances company on a smart fridge topic. And there was a discussion about how we enable the payments over there in a secure way. So there was a more of a cybersecurity topic over there. I think this is what we are talking about, 2016 or 17. And I think this is how I encountered blockchain. And I think that was the hype here at that point of time. And then I think I quickly went into the topic, and I have always the focus on enterprise side. So I'm not really the guy with whom you can speak about the crypto, the audit of the stuff, but how do you implement this technology in the industry? And since then, you know, I was before in a different consulting company, joining before PwC, and then I joined PwC as a blockchain-focused, career, I would say, and then I have been always working on enterprise sides. I have done now projects, you know, in 10 plus industries, 35 plus projects around, you know, in logistics, supply chain, in gambling, oil and gas. So I think quite a variety of experiences, mainly focusing on how do we enable new business models, you know, develop the business cases, and then use the technology, you know, how to implement, you know, the mix of technology. So it's always not only the blockchain, but IoT, blockchain, mostly analytics, and nowadays also AI. So I think this is really the background that we are working on. I have 3 specific sector focus, so retail, pharma, and automotive. And I focus since last 2 years mainly on digital product passport. I think you might have heard here because of the regulations that are coming in. And I think this is all happening, you know, a lot of companies are there which is completely under the radar, I would say, in this space, but they are all using, you know, all different kind of blockchain. And I think this is what my focus is. So looking forward to sharing some experience around that. Back to you.
Husen, you all touched briefly on what you do with your clients. Can you be more specific? So what are the projects that you're most passionate about that you do at your clients? Whoever wants to go first.
As I have the microphone, if no one else wants to, then I just start. So I think one of the most exciting projects is that I'm from AML, so anti-money laundering perspective, worked with a fintech as the external MLRO. Now for over a year, they just received the, at first their security institution license last year in October. So it was like an typical situation for fintechs, startups, you as a compliance regulatory driven guy coming up and find a green floor. So the first big highlight was to then come up with a whole governance AML compliance framework, set up some processes, tell them what processes are, because they do things like they do, because they want to make business and to grow and scale up and so on. But to bring some kind of like a bit of discipline into the world of the fintech from the traditional field by not forgetting that it's still a fintech and you let them room to breathe. That was one of the exciting ones.
Thank you. Maybe on my side, so actually what drives me is creating value for our customers, which sounds maybe a little bit like stupid, but at the end of the day, so the more value we can create, the more excited I am. So it's not that much related to the topic. That can be like hardship, that you say, this is maybe boring or intense or whatever. But when we create, when we make a difference for our clients, this is what makes me happy. And maybe one project to highlight here is, and I think this is also great to understand what we are capable to do as FinPlanet. We have been serving as a company builder for All Unity, so for the consortium of DWS, Flow Traders, and Galaxy. And they started with the ID back then. They had an ID, they had a budget, they had an appointed CEO with Alexander Höppner, but it didn't have an entity, they didn't have a holding structure, they didn't have operations, no hires. So they asked us, because they wanted to jumpstart, hey, can you support us building it from scratch? And this is, so the larger the project is, the huger, also like the difference that you can make. Other projects that are also quite intense, where the scope is quite more or less, is when our customers are having like one urgent pressing topic, for instance, from the regulator, and then we can jump in, and when we help them to resolve all the questions within 6 weeks, this is also very satisfying for us because it makes our customers happy.
I actually do envy you, because whenever we come in, it's all been laid out, the strategy is there, and we just do the boring stuff, and nitty-gritty compliance nobody likes. I was once to his office, and yeah, it was fintech, and it was hard to imagine Jan being surrounded by young, nerdy people, but doing crypto, yeah. But Husen, you're on the strategy side as well.
Yes, definitely. So I think a couple of them in the last couple of, or I would say 1 or 2 years, that has been super, super interesting. I have worked with a global battery association where we define the whole global standards on how you will actually incorporate the information in the battery passport, right? So we worked with the US government, the Chinese government, the EU, to really understand what is going to get into the battery passport. And I think it's already defined by the regulators, but for example, they say, okay, they need to incorporate carbon footprint, but how do you calculate it? How do you calculate the waste management? So I think we have been actually involved in those topics. How do you actually report those things? How do you conduct the due diligence processes? How do you make money ultimately? I mean, regulation and compliance is one thing, but I think the biggest topic for the company is where is the money, right? So I think this is exactly what we're exploring. Another one, I think what I did was super interesting. How many of you have heard of automated wallet parking? Great, I think only one in the room, but yes, there's something what I have also worked on because it's a chicken and egg problem. So automated wallet parking is nothing but, there is a feature in BMW 7 Series and in Mercedes S-Class that you can just go into the parking garage and get out, and then car gets automatically parked. There is a chicken and egg problem because how many garages are that much automated? Because it comes with the investments. Right? So, and I mean, how many S-Class and 7 Series are there in the market, right? So there is really a chicken and egg problem to solve that, and I think this is something how we actually develop some concept and business models around it. So this was super, super interesting to understand, because I think parking business is quite dispersed. There is no one company in one city, owning all the parking garages, right? So I think this is also interesting. And I think, of course, moving with the trend, I think in the last few months, real estate tokenization. So I think this is really picking it up. In Dubai, in Germany, and I think Dubai and Germany, and especially Munich, has some really good connections, I would say. So I think it has been really interesting space to see, how the companies, real estate companies in Dubai as well as in Germany are really taking this up. And ultimately, we are not doing the tokenization, we are not developing the cool stuff as a platform, but how to make money, always that's the question, that we try to sell. Like, okay, why can't we just go to the bank and get the money, so where is really the money in the token, right? So this is exactly the questions that we are really getting on the table by the real estate companies, and that's what we are working on, yeah.
So moving on to challenges, I think chicken and egg problem is one. What are the biggest ones that you see working for your clients, or your challenges, and challenges for them? Touch crypto, whatever you name it.
Maybe starting with our customers. So I think we can divide, so our customers are first our banks, or let's say incumbents who are entering the crypto space, and they're facing different challenges compared to a global exchange who is entering the regulated space, right? So has been not regulated for a couple of years, but at the end of the day, it's always a change, and a major change that needs to be made in both entities. And especially for large entities, lessons learned is that this change is so big that it only can happen when you have support on the C-level. So some banks have the idea that they say, look, we have like this smart guys in the business development team, and our decision that we take today is that we want to discuss this topic again in 3 months, but then nothing is going to happen, right? So you need to really have, let's say, at least one believer within the C-level who's really pushing it, who is providing the budget, and who is also like covering it when we have like, when different topics occur. Then the second challenge that some banks are facing is who should be working on a project. And typically new stuff is starting in the business development or strategy department. And what some banks do is that they say, hey, look, you did a great job and you're already today now the expert in DLT-based business. So you are the guy who should execute the project. But typically the average BizDev guy is a great BizDev guy, but is not a great executor, right? Because they have never done it before. So some banks struggle here. Then other banks say, okay, you're the BizDev guy, you did the groundwork, we know now what to do, and now like the operational guys, they have to execute. But they have no clue about DLT, right? So this is where a lot of traditional banks get stuck to simply build the right team. And then the third thing where a lot of banks are struggling is, and I think you have to die one death. So there's no simple path here. Is the question, how do you want to approach and how do you want to build up DLT-based business? And some banks take the strategy that they say, look, we don't know what's going to happen in 5 years, right? And what you can learn from other mega trends like internet or also like the car industry back in the 19th century is that the first business models were highly overestimated. So a lot of firms go bankrupt, but the hype itself is underestimated. So especially when you look at the internet, so a couple of years after .com crashed, like the largest entities concerning market cap in the world were entities with internet-based business models. So the question is now, what are you going to do as a bank? And some banks say, okay, we don't know which of the 5 use cases that we're chasing is going to succeed. So let's simply build the use cases, then we find out what survives, and then we bring it together at a later stage. But bringing it together at a later stage can be very, very painful, right? And this is, we have a couple of clients who are exactly in this process. And other banks get stuck on the other end that they say, no, we don't want to have this pain in 2 years. We want now to take a sophisticated decision what to do. And they're still planning, right? And after they finalize the planning, then they start the replanning. And they say, but now this has happened. Do we have to rethink our planet given the fact that tokenized money market funds is the next hot shit in town? So banks get stuck here. And this is like the challenges that banks are facing. I think we have seen a lot. We have I think we were able to guide a couple of banks through this process and as asset managers. But these are the challenges that they're generally facing. For us as FinPlanet, what is our challenge? We are like a very, very rapidly growing company, so with a very easy business model. So at the end of the day, we are dependent on the hiring great people, right? That can make a difference for our clients. So I would say for us, hiring is like the biggest challenge to keep up with the growth that we're facing with market growth on our customers.
Maybe one additional question. Where do you look for talent? As we're at the university, or do you look for more experienced guys?
So both. So currently, what we are searching for depends also like a little bit on the area. So we have like 1/3 of our revenues we make in the strategy part, and there we look currently for both for senior guys and for more junior guys. And at the part of the operation excellence is like senior, junior, something in between. So at the end of the day, we are still a quite small company, so we also can adapt ourselves to talents, right? So whoever wants to start a career in the consultancy business, feel free to approach us, and then then we can see what we can do.
pretty happy that we are in Munich today, because otherwise I would, if we would be here in 2 weeks, I would be struggle to find a metaphor. Today it makes it pretty easy. I would focus on 3 different things regarding the challenges on ERR. Today. So at first, innovation, that nearly matches with what you said. Lots of banks, entities, whatever, of course, know their current situation. They know where they come from. Sometimes they're struggling to find the vision where they want to go, especially with new technologies like crypto, blockchain, Web3. How can they or bring their traditional products into new things? And there's just and this is pretty interesting if you just think about this typical product sphere, this typical BWL chart where you know how the products.
The Gartner Hype Cycle.
Yeah, product. Thanks. Yeah. We're not yet on the top, so we're still in the finding phase and development phase. So still at the beginning. The other thing is like adoption. If they decide to move into new technology, then they or business models, whatever, then they often have the issue to adapt or adopt things, which is also matching. And I think you can bring more insights to this because it's a new field and there's no customized solution coming up because lots of innovation has to be newly set up. I'll just remember one client discussion I have right now with an institution from Munich. They just heard that a competitor has an e-money license, and they said, hey, this is the competitor, they're doing it. We do also need to do it. They do not have a clue really how to use it, but they want to. So it's something like a planning design phase. So that's the struggle of adoption. And then the last A, and I would say it's a double A, it's authority approach, especially in the crypto sphere. We have I think something like the individual and a single second layer approach, where lots of people think that they can control the blockchain, which is uncontrollable from their nature or not, whatever. But this discussion we do not want to open today. But they try to regulate the exit and entry points into it. So this is, of course, by just saying, hey, for example, I just had it couple of minutes ago, the Mika stated, hey, you're doing crypto, you're doing digital assets, you're now handled nearly like a financial institution. You have to follow and comply with all the given regulations that those companies had the chance to grow with or to develop in and still struggling, but now they require it from newly built and innovation-driven companies. That's like the third challenge.
Perfect. Then I think 2 main challenges. One is education. You can see itself in this conference how many corporates really, like operations guys, sustainability functions or finance functions are here. This is really, really a problem. Yeah. So whenever we go to the clients, and I think you would experience the same as well, right? Because I think if we go to the corporate companies, really lack all of this education. I have seen even there are some really main suppliers of the solution. They are really don't want to touch into this topic, right? And I think this is really the main problem, that the corporate think this is really something still gimmicky, and they don't understand what is really the implementation power behind it. And the second biggest problem, is those who understand, they are unable to bridge between the Web 2 world. So I think, how do you connect to the existing world? How do you scale that? Because you can see some amazing concepts in the automotive sector, retail sector. Why haven't we seen the implementation? Because they are not really able to connect with the SAP. They are not able to connect with the cloud. How would you reach, the scale if there are companies in 20 countries? How would you reach that? It's same with payments, right? I mean, as you mentioned, they go back to the planning, replanning, and they are stuck over there, and they are really not able to move out of that. So, and I think, as you mentioned, right, sometimes they really don't, and they are really running out of the money then. And then all of these things, okay, it's not working. And this is how, a lot of time things end up. And I think this is really, I see as the 2 major challenges. If they have the education And rather than seeing as a technology how I am solving my business problem, if you are using AI, but how do you trust the data? You know, it's all like you're not going to trust whatever the AI is going to say, right? So, I mean, if you think of those fundamental questions, you will already start getting the answer that you need to use the decentralized database, yeah.
So if education is the problem, what's the solution? I mean, we're here.
Education.
Thank you.
I mean, just you will remember when we started at KPMG together with this growing group of crypto interested people. We just did it as an extra stuff in our free time, like a hobby, by just educating ourselves with meeting every 2 weeks and invest and present things to us, just to get into the topic. I think Philip Sander once wrote that every hour that you're going to invest in crypto is a good hour for you and education, but there will be something like 1,000 basic hours to get into the topic. And that's, I think, a couple of years ago. So I think education on various levels within the corporates, so on the client side, within the consultant side, within the audit side, nearly everywhere.
Yeah, I completely agree. And our approach typically is to take the responsible persons who will, at the end of the day, be responsible for operations, to already include them very strongly within the implementation project, because then they can learn before they really have to operate the responsibility for the live operations. They can already educate themselves on the project, because what's getting more and more difficult is that knowledge is growing exponentially in the world, right? But my capabilities to learn, at least for me, I'm not sure what about you guys, but my capability to learn is not growing exponentially. So you need to be more and more cautious what information is really relevant to you. And this can be completely different from use case to use case that a bank is implementing. So there's like not a standardized like seminar that you can send your employees to. This will be simply waste of time. You need to do it specifically for this use case. So you have to include the right people who will be responsible in the operations already in the implementation project.
I would like to add over there, because you asked a very interesting question, right? What to do about that? And I think the change starts from us, right? Because I think most of the time, whenever we are really a Web3 specific company, we go straight into it, you know, and we show the amazing things what we are building, but we forget the bigger picture. Like, okay, where does it fit in the company? You know, which function? What is the implication in the business model? Are we really solving this business model that we are actually attracting the CXO attention? These are the things that we completely forget. If we really start doing that, then I think we will actually start getting into it, because they always like to hear, what is there a cost saving? Are we making more money? I think we need to bring, first of all, the mentality of ourselves, you know, and we need to also educate about that, because I think, as you mentioned, otherwise we are addressing the elephant, you know, where we are really not able to compare over there. And I think to gain all the knowledge. So I think this is something I would really add over there. And also thinking about the bridging, right? Because sometimes you see a lot of really cool companies, but we need to strategize with whom we should partner in order to get at the scale. This we can easily do, because we are the tech-savvy crowd here.
Also, I wanted to add one thing, that we have still to continue to educate ourselves, to move away from being too much philosophers about what could be, because we're so, sometimes in this crowd, we are so nerdy, yeah? Sometimes it's like, oh, client says, I have a problem, and you, of course, with blockchain, crypto background, directly thinking, hey, crypto, blockchain, that could be the solution. Then, of course, the client does not understand what you're talking about. So we have also to educate ourselves back to some kind of more understandability by the clients, yeah? That's also a thing, which is also starting with us. Yeah.
Agree. But philosophical question, as we have 10 minutes left, the future, the trends that you see, what are they? So I wrote down hype. We have to still figure out what is hype and what is actually a use case that is going to stay.
I'll just had one discussion, I think it was a couple of weeks ago or 2 weeks ago, with one of my business partners, who's more focusing on the IT side. And he was like, I think he attended some panel about quantum computer, and he said, "Hey, we're now with 256 security. You know what I want
Whatever
to say.
the unit is.
Yeah, you
I
know
don't know.
this securitarization of information and so on." And within not two, he said 5 to 10 years. This is not enough. But we're now building everything on this point. So I think just from an other point of view, I would say right now, it's lots of things are a hype, like NFTs. Yeah, they came, they left. Lots of people lost lots of money. And patience. And on the other side, we are talking about to implement the future by seeing the horizon that there's the probability that this future won't be the future. You know, so we're surfing the hype by knowing the wave is going to be pretty flat right now, already within the next 5 to 10 years, maybe.
Yeah, I think for me, I have really 3 topics where I'm focusing, and I guess that is going to be at least going to keep us busy for the next 3, 4, 5 years. One is the digital product passport, right? At the moment, we have the regulations around the batteries, right? And as I mentioned, the whole end-to-end traceability happens on the blockchain because it's a decentralized. But I think not only that, to really give an example on the consumer world, I think at the moment we are buying a bio products, but is it really a bio or not? I think in future you will get really a proof of that it's really coming from wherever is the origin, right? So this is really going to be proof, and this is going to happen in the next couple of years. All the supermarkets are working on that. So this is really the area of product passport. The second is the asset tokenization. I think this is where, you know, you are able to buy the piece of real estate in future via mobile apps, right? This is really happening. So you don't need to collect 100,000 until you buy an apartment, not in Munich, but somewhere else. And the last thing is, you know, the trade finance. So how the whole, you know, logistics, supply chain, how the things are moving in the world. There is a lot of paper is flowing at the moment, and I think this is going to get digitalized, and this is all going to come on the decentral technologies, yeah.
But any hypes for you?
I think it comes in waves, right? So I think it's not always. So I think if you see last couple of years, there was metaverse as a hype that came and went in, right? Then this is at the moment we are all in AI hype. So this hype is always changing in every year, right? But if you stick to the fundamentals, you know, this is where there is a beauty, right? Because I think I'm pretty sure there would be a new hype in the next 1.5 years. Yeah.
Yeah, I completely agree. So I think maybe start with the challenge and then answer your question concerning the hype. The main challenge is actually maybe every single use case that you can find, at least in the financial sector. At the end of the day, you're building network industries, and the network industry is defined that the value of the industry is determined by the users within the industry. So best example is WhatsApp. I can reach like the world with WhatsApp, and this is why WhatsApp is great. If I would be the only one who was using WhatsApp, the value to me would be 0. So, and this is also like a large difference compared to the AI projects that we see in banks. You know, when you're the only bank that is using AI, then you have like a competitive edge compared to your competitors. When you're the only one who's tokenizing the securities, then nobody can distribute your securities, you know, then it's a waste of money. You simply get stuck. So what we have seen so far is, especially when it comes to tokenized securities, is that many banks argue that they say, look, I'm not the one who's going to bring all the money on the table to pave the way for my competitors. So I don't need to be the first one. I don't need to be the second one. When it's there, then we will adopt. So everybody's waiting for the other ones. So I have the feeling that a little bit, especially when it comes to tokenized securities, that many market participants, and I agree with their assessment, they have the feeling that you have like a first mover disadvantage. But now looking at the hype, where's the hype coming from? The hype is now coming a little bit spillover effects from the stablecoin market, because we're talking a lot of tokenization, but the only tokenization use case that has become a $1 billion business so far is tokenized money with stablecoins so far. And when you look at issuing stablecoins, then it's quite reasonable to argue that there will not be 5 million stablecoins around. right? You might have maybe 3 or 4 in Europe for different use cases. So now when it comes to not tokenizing like a structured product to distribute it somewhere, but when it comes to issuing stablecoins, then you do have a disadvantage when you're not the first on the market or the second one, right? So now you get a lot of drive into the banks that they say, okay, now we understand that this is a tokenization use case where we should not wait, where we need to attack today. And this is also spilling over for the use cases that a lot of people see with tokenized money market funds, because you will not have like 5 million tokenized money market funds that will be used as a collateral in the interbanking sector. Might be like a couple of ones. So this is a hype, so I completely agree with you that hypes come and go. We have seen ICOs and whatever, but I have the feeling that sometimes you need a hype to bring like the fundamental progress to the next level. And my hope is, and also like, not only hope, this is also what we observe in the market, that the hype around stablecoins and the hype around tokenized money market funds will now help us to bring the topic of tokenized securities to the next level.
I just saw the sign, 2 minutes. Anything you want to get off your chest, or maybe 1 or 2 questions from the audience?
In the microphone, please.
Thank you. I have a question for Dirk. You told us before that you are hiring, especially in Spain. Why Spain? Didn't you say that the senior?
No, not in Spain.
Okay.
So,
I misunderstood that.
So it's strategy. So I made up 2 pillars. So one is strategy, and the other is operational excellence. So
Yes.
these are the content-wise the pillars, but the employees that we're currently having there are all based in Germany.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry for the confusion.
Great. So that's all the time we have for today, unfortunately. But a round of applause for all of our panelists, please.